Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Today's topic is how to nail your wedding vows. And we have Brian Franklin here, and his company is Vows and Speeches. And I'll go ahead and read his bio. So, Brian and Nicole Franklin co founded Vows and Speeches because it seemed that every wedding they went to, the speeches dragged. Sometimes they were downright cringy. Despite the significant expenses and time devoted to the overall wedding production, it seemed these moments were being left up to chance without professional oversight and guidance. As a political consultant who trained people how to make very boring topics interesting to audiences, Brian knew they could help. In mid 2021, he brought up the idea in a wedding planner discussion group on an app called Clubhouse, and it was suggested to add custom vows and ceremony scripts for the internet ordained friends and family officiants. Within hours, really, Vows and Speeches was born, and the next day they had their first client. Since 2021, Vows and Speeches has worked on hundreds of weddings and other events. Everything from charity event speeches to eulogies, covered in the New York Times, Brides, Bridal Guide, The Knot, and leading podcasts. Vows and Speeches is establishing itself as a trusted, high touch resource for anyone who is running into difficulty saying what they want to say, is running out of time, and or has a significant fear of public speaking. So welcome, Brian.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, that was quite the intro. You have done so much already just in your business since 2021 with Vows and Speeches. But I mean, you kind of saw a gap in the whole market and you were like, this is so needed. And I just think it was cool how you brought your idea to Clubhouse, that app, and people were like, yeah, let's do it. So,
Thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
I think everybody that's ever gone to a wedding or has gone to multiple weddings has seen at least an instance where something fell flat in either the speeches or the vows or the ceremony, where it's too short, too long, just doesn't say anything or rambles. And so but these are such important moments, and people want to do them justice. I think they really
Mhm.
care about them. And yet some people that are speaking, particularly in the speeches section, don't care enough. so,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, right.
we were kind of shocked when we looked at the marketplace and realized that while there are people out there that are doing similar things, as a whole, this hasn't been professionalized. It hasn't, it's not a known niche yet, that couples just automatically go, oh, I can get help with this if I am not a good writer, or I'm running out of time, or I feel anxious, or I can write, but I have trouble with public speaking. And so, I think we definitely identified something that there's a need for, but getting it out there and just making sure that people understand that this is not, you're not compromising your voice or how personalized it is. In fact, you're doing the opposite. You're getting to a level of personalization that you might not be able to get to without the help. And so
Mhm.
it's just something that we're very excited to offer. We've been having a lot of fun working in this industry, and it's the best. I mean, I get to talk about love all day. I get to
Mhm.
interview people about about the things that are most important to them, and it's really fun. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. And like your bio said, it's like a lot of times people sort of like wait till the very last minute to do their speeches. And so, have you had any times where it's like a time crunch where somebody has decided to hire you and you're like, we got to get the ball rolling?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I think panic buyers are comprise about 20% of our clientele. But, people that were in the last week of before the wedding, and they have a speech to write or their vows to write. The most dramatic one was actually uh, brought up in the New York Times article, where we got called on the sun. Sorry, we got called on a Friday for a Sunday wedding.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
so by Friday afternoon, we did the interview Friday afternoon. Friday, sorry, Saturday morning, I got them their vow draft. we went through the changes. We started practicing it and did another rehearsal session on Sunday, and she was off to the races and got a standing
Wow.
ovation. And like it was great.
Amazing.
So yeah,
Wow.
it was really really fun, a great story. And but I think what we really want people to consider is that if you started at the beginning of the process and not at the end, then it's something that you can take as much time as you want to make revisions. You can make as many revisions as you need to. And then you're reserving a great amount of time for practicing and getting fluent with it, sitting with it. And it's also something you can do that's fun long before you're stressed out while you're looking at venues. It's just something you can cross off on your, from your list. And so, uh, and budget for also. I mean, that's the other side. You just put it in there, and maybe it comes out of something else. But in the grand scheme of things, it's a small expense for something that is really a big part of the wedding and something that people like me look forward to. So
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And I know, like, for so many people today, it's like, I feel like so many people's jobs are just like behind a desk, behind a computer, and like they're not exercising that public speaking muscle every day. And so to do something like this, when they get asked to go up in front of 100, 200 people and say something is quite nerve wracking. And I can't remember if it was on your podcast that I was listening to, but I feel like I heard a stat where it's like a lot of people fear public speaking more than death or something.
yeah,
And
it's like
don't
something
quote
like
me on that,
76%.
but
I think like people that have some kind of public speaking fear, it's like 76%. I mean,
yeah.
I am a public speaking trainer. I have done a tremendous amount of public speaking. But if you put me, frankly, I get nervous too. I mean, there's something you want
Yeah.
to do a good job. The expectations for yourself and perhaps by others, it weighs on you. And it's helpful to work with people that are professionals to get feedback. I need to practice myself. I have to do the rehearsals or else I'm going to stammer and stutter and do all the ums and all. I have to edit that stuff out and be cognizant of it and frankly get the muscle memory so that I don't trip over words. And so I think it's important because if you're going in front of I don't care if you're a public speaker in general, when you're doing it in front of a 200 people or 150 people that and that are friends and family members and and you're going to do it while spilling your guts about your love for somebody. It's a different kind of public speaking and people just get nervous. And our job, part of it is to help people write it and find the words, but the other part of it is to help them feel more confident when they get up there that they're going to perform them in a nice way.
Mhm. Oh, definitely. Yeah, and you're right. It's not just like a normal public speaking gig or something where it's like you have these notes and you're talking about a certain topic. It's like a lot of times you're spilling out your guts in front of all of these people and it's like you are saying some of the most heartfelt things that maybe you've never said to this person before or maybe you've only said to your significant other behind closed doors and now all these other people are watching and like I know for me like I'm fine getting up on a microphone like in front of my wedding vendor friends and colleagues and things, but like, oh my gosh, if a friend or like family member was there in the audience, I feel like I would clam up and I don't know why. Maybe it's just like because you're a lot closer to that person and so yeah, I and there's friends and family members all in the same room when you are saying your vows and when you are giving speeches at weddings. And so I feel like just the intensity of it all is like so heightened compared to like, I'll have all these notes and, talk about a certain topic in a work meeting.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
and work is something that you're familiar with. You might know the
Hmm.
attributes of whatever it is you're selling or talking about, and or you've done the research, and you have a level of confidence that comes with knowledge. This is something that's, uh, you know, it requires some humor. It requires some vulnerability to do, and that can be scary. But I think when you've written it in a way that you're really comfortable with, that really represents how you feel, that is, it can be mushy, but the thing is, it doesn't have to be. It could be uh, loving and telling stories. I mean, a part of our job is not to write it, really. It's to help you unlock the stories and the things about your relationship that define you as a couple, or define why you love somebody. If you're a wedding party speaker, for example, how you articulate what it is you love about what you're seeing in front of you in the relationship, for example. uh, those things require a little bit of digging sometimes. And so our job is to try and figure out how to get to those stories and those quirks and those little fun attributes about your partner or your son or your best friend that make for great content. And once you have that and you read it and you're like, okay, this sounds like me, this is my story, then you go up there very differently. You just go in there knowing this is the right thing to say, because it is.
Yeah. That's really cool that you're just there and available to them to make them feel comfortable and really kind of express themselves in a way that does feel so genuine, which is really cool. But yeah, let's dig in. I would love to know some tactical things like what makes for great vows? Like, what are some of the best vows that you've heard?
I think the best vows that I've heard, and I think the ones that we're most proud of helping people write, are ones that have a balance of true sentimentality, like a real earnest feeling, but also that do it in specific ways. They tell actual stories or instances where someone did something, or that that was a good example of their love and the way that they are treated and what makes them feel so loved and safe, and all of the things that people say. You're my person is not really specific, right?
Mhm.
But why is, what do they do to become your person? That becomes the fun part, or the real meaningful and powerful part of this type of thing. The other thing that I think makes for a really good vow, and this goes for both vows and speeches, really, is humor. I think every relationship is funny. It has moments of humor. I don't know of any good couple, at least, that is not laughing at something about their relationship. It's not all serious. People do funny things, and you don't want to say things that are embarrassing or that will be, that make people feel like you shouldn't have said that. But I think there are plenty of other things that just make people laugh, even if it's a little thing. And it doesn't have to be a big joke. It's just, but just something about what you do together that shows the light of your relationship. And so I think that those are two elements, humor, specificity. I think also brevity. You don't want things to drag. You don't need 10 minutes to do this. You need two to, maybe 1 to 2 in vows, and 3 to 4 in a speech. I think, and the reason the speeches have to be longer is you also want to give some time to the, if it's your best man, or you're the best man, and it's your best friend, you want to give some time to their spouse. You don't want it to be imbalanced in such a way that it seems conspicuous. Oh, by the way, I like them too, or forget them at all. That happens a lot. So so you need time to do a few different things in a speech that you don't have to do in vows. But brevity is important, humor, specificity, and I think just having some flow is, just having it be structured in a way that feels like one single piece of writing rather than like different pieces pulled together.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally get that. Those are all really great tactical tips if you're listening to this and you're writing your vow or your speech. Like, definitely some great advice coming from the guy who does this for a living. And then let's talk about speeches. I feel like reception speeches can be some of the most cringy speeches. I've been there where I'm just sitting at my table, like, please, somebody take the mic away from them. Like, when is this going to end? Um, and so, yeah, give us all of the tips about
Sure. Well, I think
speeches
the
during
number one
reception.
tip is that you need to set a hard stop.
Yeah.
No more than 4 minutes, right? Tell your tell your tell everybody in your wedding party that is going to be speaking that this is important, not just because you want it to be fast, but because the food is timed to come out at a certain time. People, you have reserved a certain amount of time for dancing. All of those things add up. If people, if 5 people go 5 minutes long, and what we've heard horror stories that go far and beyond that, um, but five, that's 25 minutes worth, worth of time that just disappears. On top of it being boring and people just going, well, please, I want to talk to my neighbor. You put people at a table, you want them to talk to each other. They want to talk to each other. And now you're forcing them to sit and not talk for 25 minutes, right? So, uh, so you want to keep it short. You want to ask your speakers to read it out loud and time it, because the other thing that happens is people earnestly think they have 3 to 4 minutes, but they've never actually read their speech out loud and timed it, and it turns out it's 10 because it's 2 pages. How could it be 10? Well, densely written copy on 2 pages at 10-point font, it's going to be like 10. um, so those are things that I think, at least initially, you should start with really severe guidance. Have a plan in place for if something goes rogue, right? I can help people write it. I can get it down to 3 to 4 minutes. What I can't do, everything we do is remote. What I can't do is stop them from winging it and going rogue, right? So just have a
Hmm.
plan with your planner to be, if something happens, do we play them off? What's the signal? That kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, that can be difficult, I think, when for planners to decide, especially like if somebody's paying for the wedding and they're the ones with the microphone. It gets a little weird to cut them off. So you just really want to be very, very structured. But in terms of actually speaking, uh, it the first thing is do no harm, right? You can't underscore it enough. The job of a wedding party speaker is to pay tribute to the relationship, to make people feel good, and to make them feel good for having put you on stage, right? And if you do anything else besides that, you failed. And so I think getting up there, this is not your moment for your stand-up debut. This is not, like, this is not the time
Yeah.
to tell that embarrassing story, right? This is not the time to do something unorthodox, really. You're It's really critical to just stick to the mission, because you may not even like who they're marrying. Doesn't matter. What you need to do is talk in those moments about what you've seen that's good, right? Look, the happiness that your friend may have, or your son or daughter may have when they're with them. Okay, you don't be negative, that kind of thing. Leave it all out. I'm sure, especially like for the parents out there that might be listening, if you don't like your son or daughter's spouse to be, your son or daughter already knows that, and it will make it that much more special when you get up there and say something really truly nice, and
Hmm.
and that makes it even more of a gift. So I think sticking to those rules first and foremost, and again, of course, brevity. Keep it to 3 to 4 minutes. Stay within the guidelines. Please don't wing it, and don't try and
Yeah.
memorize it. Right?
Yeah.
Don't go in there with bullets, because you can't remember how long. You won't be able to pay attention to the time, and you're going to be like,
Hmm.
And also, don't try and memorize it, because if
Mm.
you try and memorize it, you're. It's one thing to memorize it in your room. It's another thing to memorize it and then have 200 people staring back at you, right?
Hmm.
and or in that big moment, the nervousness, you could blank out. What do you do? So just be ready to read it off the thing, and but be fluent with it. And that's where the practicing part of it comes, and that's what we work with people on.
Yeah, nice. So you recommend like writing it all out instead of doing bullet
Word by
points.
word. Absolutely.
Wow,
The
okay. I
reason
like that.
being, absolutely, I script everything that this is different. This is an interview, but in those moments, if I'm going to give any kind of speech, 1 minute, 5 minutes, I script every single word out. And the reason is that you want to have that flow. You want to get to a certain point. You've written in a certain way. And when you do things extemporaneously, even that one moment, you're going to have those little delays, those little those things that kind of just break it apart in not in the best way. And so this allows you to say it beautifully, eloquently, and with flow if you practice it.
Mhm. I like that. That's good. I feel like that probably comes from your political consulting background because I
Yeah,
feel
you
like
never want
that's
those
how a
people to
lot
wing
of
it.
Yeah, I know, right? You're like, "Stick to the notes,"
Yeah,
right?
I mean, even in
Yeah.
press interviews, like back in the day, where you would drill on, you would practice with questions that you might anticipate. You want them to have really practiced responses because every word can get you in trouble as well as, be a success. So
Oh, yeah, definitely. I know. So you've kind of explained some of these, but what are some of those horror stories? I know, like, for me, I was at a wedding where there was just an open mic and they just let anyone and everyone come up and say what they wanted. And this lasted a long time.
yeah,
And I was like, where is the hook that we can start pulling people off the stage? I've
I've
seen another one
50
where
minutes. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, where it was like a mother of the bride, like calling herself the B word and getting all riled up. And I was just, everyone was like, what, somebody please
Oh,
take that mic away. So,
it's the it's the worst. We've heard so many of them. I just heard one the other day um, where the best man started talking about how the new wife was better, so much better than the old wife, and a lot
oh
of people didn't know
no,
that
please no.
the person was married before. Okay, um,
No way.
but I mean, some of the worst things I've heard: 45, 50, even 60-minute speeches.
Oh,
The one
no,
I
no,
heard the other
no.
day was 60 minutes, which is currently the record. Uh,
Wow.
and what it did was, they didn't realize or forgot that there was a hard stop in the venue, so they had 20 minutes for dancing. That it was
Oh,
incredible. It was terrible. It was
sad.
so sad.
I'm so sad for
The most
them.
dramatic ones I've heard: the best man who got the other groomsmen to like have their keys ready, and then said, "Okay, jingle your keys if you've slept with the bride." Right? And then a bunch
No,
of
that's
people jingled their
terrible.
keys.
Oh, that's so
This is
bad.
the most crazy story. Comes from all of these stories came from luxury wedding professionals. So
Wow.
these were expensive weddings that got ruined here. But one that is probably the most dramatic was the uh, father of the groom who disclosed that his son and he went to a brothel in South America together,
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
and apparently shared a
No.
prostitute, which so
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
so
like the
terrible.
weirdest, like why would you even,
Why?
why, right? First of all, why would you do that, period? But secondly,
Right, yeah.
but secondly, why would you disclose that at your son's wedding?
Oh
And
my
so and
gosh.
it completely killed the wedding. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
when people walked out, it was, people were, the bride was in hysterics apparently. So
Yeah.
some of the stories are just, you always think people have good judgment, but then if you think about it, like, do they, like, does your family, or can you truly trust your family and friends in these moments, or maybe should you give them some professional guidance over the top of it?
Mhm.
And I have, I even with my own clientele, there have been times where you're just like, we really shouldn't say that. Like, we just
Yeah.
shouldn't say that. And I steer them in a different direction, or I tell them why, and this is why, and they go, oh yeah, that makes sense. And it's like they were
Mhm.
going to say it,
Oh my
so
gosh.
so
Well,
ask
you saved
yourself,
them and
yeah,
everyone at the wedding.
exactly. So ask yourself, are there, who in your wedding party that's going to be speaking is either afraid of public speaking or you're afraid of what they're going to do or say publicly. If you have anybody in there that says yes, send them to us because we can help you. But otherwise, you're just throwing it out to chance. And do you really want to do that with the wedding that you've put so much time and effort into planning?
Oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, so many bridesmaids and groomsmen are friends from college, and a lot of people have had wild and crazy college days, and
Absolutely.
I feel like a lot of those stories end up public that you
Don't
may
talk
not
about
have
it.
want
Yeah,
to
don't talk.
be
Look, I
public.
mean, what happened in the past, those wild and crazy days, you can just say we had some wild and crazy days. Okay, that's fine.
Right.
That's all you need to say. You
Period.
don't need to say, when back when we were, doing rails off the hood of your car.
Oh my
We
gosh,
don't need to say things
seriously.
like that. But people do, and you're forgetting that, or people forget that the kind of humor that you might have, or the kind of things that you might say at home with your friends at a bar in close company, it's different when like people's work
Oh
friends are
my
there,
gosh,
or their
yes.
bosses or their grandparents. You're not going to
Grandma,
say this.
yeah.
You don't want to say the same things in front of grandma, and you think you're being edgy, but again, your mission is to elevate the moment, to make people feel more happy, and to make them feel glad that they invited you. And if you say things that are potentially embarrassing, if you're on the fence, or you're not thinking about this, then you should be.
Yeah. I did want to bring up one last question with you, and this is big right now because AI has come onto the scene and people are using this so heavily in their wedding planning, in their wedding speeches. What is the perk of hiring you over asking AI to write your speech for you?
Sure. Well, the first thing is that it's going back to the interview process. I mean, we do an hour
Yeah.
long interview with you. And so it's having a real human on the other side of the phone talk to you about your relationship and ask follow-up questions and have these kinds of conversations. It's not simply about the writing. Even if AI could do that to the level that we do, which it can't at the moment, uh, then it's really the discovery process that we go through to pull those stories in. AI also isn't really good at telling you what not to say.
Yeah,
So going
yeah.
back to that previous point, I don't know that I trust AI to have the sensibility that, your grandma's going to be there. Let's not talk about uh, her butt, or whatever it is, and
Right.
like you just won't know to say that. AI is not particularly good at humor, and I don't claim to be the world's best comic, but we can write some jokes.
Right,
We can find
yeah.
the funny in your relationship,
Yeah.
uh, and so that there's that. But look, I think there are people out there. I don't think people should be shamed for using it. I think it's more that we could do a lot better. Of course, there's the rehearsal piece that we mentioned earlier, which is the other part of what we do, the delivery coaching aspect, which is so critically important. So I don't disparage it. I think it doesn't. I've tried to make it do what we do, and I can't.
Mhm.
Someday maybe it can write that way and learn, but right now at this point in time, I'd rather talk to a human, and be able to go back and forth, and with somebody that actually knows what's funny and what isn't, and what should be
Mhm.
said, and that kind of thing. That has human
Yes.
judgment.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, because I don't know how AI can even get that personal. I mean, I guess you could just write like a crazy long
You,
prompt and put it in, but then
you could train it to ask the right
I don't
questions, but then
know.
you could train it to ask the right questions, but will it know what is truly special, right? Well, I
Yeah.
mean, love is a feeling, and
Hmm.
you need to be able to feel love to see it and really appreciate when what you're hearing is an example of it, right? And so I think it's a very human moment that has to have some human guidance over it. But
Mhm.
look, I mean, can it take your input and make it sound better? Perhaps, but if it's asking the right questions. But I think, look, there's people working on it. There are companies that are attempting to do this successfully, at least from a output standpoint, and I'm glad for them right now because they're actually normalizing getting help. And there is a market for, there's going to be different aspects of the market. Ours is more on the upscale aspect of it. We're a high touch kind of company, but people need help and they should be able to get it. And they're helping us send that message across the world. So I think
Mhm.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, AI can't sit there and listen to your speech and be like, "Stop right there. Let's change that." Like
Yeah.
a
Tell me
lot
more
of the
about that.
really hands-on
Yeah.
coaching. Yeah, tell me
Yeah,
more
I
about
mean, like,
that.
tell me
Yeah.
more about that. I want to know. Wait. What did you say he collected?
Mhm.
What were your feelings when you found out that he had a, a whole cupboard of Dragon Ball Z figurines, and like
Yeah.
was it a red flag to you that he had all these posters or what? And what were your feelings? And then you get to the fun stuff, right? But
Mhm.
that's what we do.
Yeah, you need a person for this. I 100% agree with you. Oh, man. Well, this has been such an awesome conversation. Tell us more about Vows and Speeches and where we can find you and how people
Sure.
can contact you.
Sure, yeah. So Vows and Speeches, it's vowsandspeeches.com, VOWSAND speeches.com. And on Instagram as well. Just reach out to me, call me, whatever, however it works. I'm here to talk to you about what we do. We'll give you a sense of it. I mean, if you've listened this far, I think you have a sense of my personality and my approach to it. But we'd love to make these moments more special for you and less anxious. And uh, we're here in LA, but everything is remote, so we can help you no matter where you are.
Awesome. Yes. Seriously, if you're listening, this can literally make or break your wedding for your wedding guests and is one of the most important elements of your wedding. And so I think people need to take this a lot more seriously than they are right now. And so thank you so much for offering your expertise in this, Brian. It is seriously so helpful. And I know it's going to help a lot of people listening to this.
It's been great to talk to you. I'm going to steal that as that quote.
Yes, steal it away.
That's
Yeah,
great.
it's yours
Thank you for
now.
that. That's good. I'm going to use that.
Of
But
course.
I love it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
You too.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Wedding Reporter podcast. I hope you learned a little bit and had fun today. To find more resources and podcast episodes, visit NashvilleBrideGuide.com for more information. And as always, click the subscribe button and leave us a review. Until next time, I'm Alyssa DeChico, signing off.